Hey everyone, NoModMaster here. Next on the list at number 10 is Egret Marina. It has an area rank of 60 and a height limit of 5 floors. And Egret Marina is the beginning of giant-sized settlements in my opinion. So Egret Marina isn't too difficult to find. If you exit Diamond City and take the road straight south, it'll end here. And all you have to do to unlock it is find Phyllis Daly, who's the one living here. And if you pass speech checks with her, you immediately unlock the workbench. So this settlement only requires you to pass speech checks. I'm going to fast forward though, because it does take a while to talk to her, and show you what it looks like once I've unlocked the workbench. Okay, so now that I've unlocked the workbench, we can finally take a look at this settlement. So this settlement is located on a river, so you do have water access, which is nice. But you do have a little bit of a hilly foundation over to the left, and then you do have these awkward piers of water that you'll have to deal with, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So let's come up here and take a look. Notice up in this area to the left of the settlement, there's male mirelurks. So be wary of those. Don't get too close to that area, or they'll come and attack you. This is definitely a more difficult settlement because it's located more southern in the Commonwealth. So if you are a lower level player, yeah, you could probably unlock this settlement, but be careful because there's a lot of major enemies nearby, like super mutants. So the super mutants actually live up here by the train tracks. I like how far out the settlement actually lets you build. So notice that the road, how it ends here, and then you can kind of use part of that road in your settlement. So you can put like a gate or something there, which I really like. And then that's the road that takes you directly back to Diamond City. For anybody that wants to find the settlement, it's just a straight shot. So there's a gate and a fence over here. I usually scrap that because it's all broken. And then up here it gets kind of rocky again, but thankfully it's mostly outside of the settlement. There is a good amount of stuff here that you can scrap. It's mostly wood, some trees and some boats and stuff that you can scrap. Let's go underwater though and take a look at some of the things down here. So notice there's some junk down here that you can also scrap. There is one thing though that you cannot scrap, which is the giant sunken boat. This can be kind of a problem for people that are trying to build near the pier or over the pier because the boat protrudes out of the water. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Notice there are 2 sets of stairs though in the water, so if you do end up swimming down there, you just can use the stairs to come up. Be careful though, there are a lot of traps all around this settlement, which is kind of surprising because Phyllis lives here. She apparently only uses the one building. But in here is the cafe area. This is probably what they use to serve tourists before they went on their tours on the river. Okay, next let's go ahead and take a look at the warehouse where they store the boats. And one thing that I almost do automatically upon unlocking this settlement is I build a pathway to connect these 2 areas right here. So I just feel like that makes the settlement flow a lot better, so I always build a pathway over this gap of water. So this is actually where boats usually come in and out. And I feel like this is more of like where they store the boats because there's another boathouse closer to the water. This unfortunately doesn't open. I wish it did. It's a big barn door that doesn't open. Another problem too is that there's a door here that looks like if you were to scrap all the stuff, that this dirt pile would maybe disappear. But unfortunately, after scrapping all the items in the dirt pile, it does not. So it's almost better just to leave the dirt pile there and not scrap it, because then you're going to end up with an awkward hole. And then back over here is these stairs that takes you up to the 2nd floor. And you know, I really like this warehouse because you can build an awesome shop in here. And over here there's actually another entrance. So if you can imagine when you build a settlement around this shop, it kind of becomes a focal point where the settlers can come and do their shopping. So careful, there's another trap on the stairs. And then up here is another area. This area is actually really stable. So there's only a few holes in the walls and the roof. There's nothing too major in terms of damage. There is one large hole here which actually leads you to another set of stairs. So this takes you up onto the roof, which pretty much leads you over to a small cooler with jet inside. So it appears that maybe in the past that there were raiders living here, which is probably why the settlement has booby traps all over the place. Maybe this is why Phyllis only stays in that one building, because she knows there's no booby traps there. So let's go ahead and take a look at the smaller boathouse. So this is the one that I would assume they use more actively for tours. And this one is where you can actually scrap one of the big boats. And then I always scrap it, of course, because I want to use this to build some sort of cool shop. So the one thing that is interesting though is that hanging light back there, it is still on for some reason. So when you build here, you're going to have to be conscious of that light because you can't delete it. So there are some more booby traps in here. I'm actually going to do a stim pack real quick because I'm starting to get the heartthrob effect. Okay, next let's talk about these awkward bodies of water between the piers. So you're going to want to utilize floor pieces to connect these areas so that you can utilize them a lot better. So obviously your goal is to completely cover these areas with floor pieces so that you can then build across them entirely. You can even use the foundations of these floors to become part of your buildings. I tend to just build on top of them though. Notice you kind of have to build one next to the pier and then you can then build over them. And be careful because if you don't build them the right way, you'll run into that building there. Another thing to be wary of is the giant boat sticking up on the other side. You have to pretty much build around it. And then I framed it perfectly so that I could put railings around it so that it was basically a hole that settlers cannot fall into. So you can do that however you like, but you get the idea. You can utilize a lot more space if you build there. And I tend to build in this main area on the docks more than anywhere else in the settlement, because once you build across there, you pretty much have tons of space here, more than anywhere else in the settlement. So next, let's take a look at the main building. So the main tours building is very destroyed, unfortunately, but fortunately it's mostly destroyed from the top. So I always prefer it to be destroyed higher up than from the bottom, because like in here there's this collapsed floor piece, and I hate when there's these in settlements because you can't delete them and they're really hard to repair in a way that makes it look normal. So like all this stuff is deletable. All this junk around here, but that little flap hanging down you can't delete, so you have to deal with that. And then up here is the destroyed section. So this is actually a blessing in disguise, I realize, because you can fit a 4x4 floor piece in that corner, and I was able to build a structure there, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Now all these floor pieces here you cannot scrap. You're gonna have to build a floor over that area. And then this is an interesting little platform that hangs off of the second floor. It's like almost like if you have like a mayor that's going to give an announcement or something. But I'm going to fast forward though and show you what I did to repair these structures. I'm only going to show you how I repaired these two damaged structures though, because the other two pretty much aren't that damaged at all. So there we go. So I pretty much made it look like the boat warehouse is part of this 4-story building here to the right, because the barn door and the regular door weren't accessible, so I just built in front of them. So let's go ahead and take a look inside. I ended up calling this weapons warehouse, so I made this my weapons shop. I thought this was perfect for it, as I could store all kinds of weapons in here and also make this into a weapons factory. So this is my vendor right in the middle. I felt like this is the appropriate area to put him. And then down here is the water access. I kept it open with a set of stairs, so that way if they wanted to use boats, they still could if they had small boats. Otherwise, the main thing that I did here is I built flooring over this big curved floor. I didn't like how much of the room that took up, so by building flooring over it and just adding some stairs, I made the room a lot bigger. Now back here I have ammo on display, and you'll notice that all around the warehouse there's actually these orange metal racks to display things, which is perfect for a weapon shop because you have a lot of things to display for a weapons vendor. So over here I have some guns on display, there's my weapons workshop, and obviously the other access point is open now. And then settlers can also come upstairs where they can buy their explosives like mines and grenades. And then I also have a few more additional heavy duty weapons on display. And then there's also an employees only section upstairs, so employees can come back here when they want to take their breaks, and this is also where the back storage is for weapons and ammo. So let's go ahead and take a look at the tours building now so we can talk about that. And that actually was a lot more work than the warehouse because the tours building was so destroyed. What I ended up doing is I built a 4-story building on top of the destroyed area. So because it's on the second floor, it gives that building a total of 5 floors in height. So it is the tallest building in the settlement, which is pretty cool. I've never built a building out of a pre-war structure like that, so this was the first time I ever did that was here. This I ended up making the mayor's office, where Phyllis Daly is the mayor. I feel like just her last name made me think mayor, and I made this the mayor's area because I wanted her to have some sort of purpose, even though she can't be assigned. She just kind of sits around. So I was like, well, let's make her look like she's doing something. Up here, I kind of kept it the same. I kept the terminals and stuff. Added a few of my own things. I wanted this to kind of look like it was an extension of the mayor's area. So there's that weird little platform you can still use. And then here's kind of how it gets tricky. See how I had to build into the old floor, kind of balance the roof pieces that were right next to this so that they didn't overlap too much. And these are basically just little studio apartments all through this tower. So let's go up though to the second floor, because the second floor actually gives us roof access, and we didn't get to see that earlier. So I ended up building roof access just because I wanted to have a guard up here. So otherwise there wouldn't be any roof access. But there's the guard station. It's pretty perfect because right there he can actually see both major entrances of my settlement, and that's pretty much the entire front part of the settlement. So as you can see, it kind of let me place it right there in that little square, which is perfect. Let's take a look up there and just see what it looks like from the guard's view. And there it is. Yeah, so he can see a lot, and so that is great when we get attacked. Let's go up now to the top floor. We can take a look at this apartment too real quick. So yeah, they're all pretty much the same. They just have a small kitchen attached. And so let's go up to the top floor, get a look at the city. So it's got the best view from up here. It looks like there's one last apartment. So there's no windows in the elevator. I wish there were. But we'll go inside the apartment and take a look out of their windows. So there it is. This is the tallest point, and this is pretty much what I feel like was the best option, because not only did it seal off that building, obviously you could use pillar glitching if you want to do it differently, but I thought this kind of added a cool touch to the settlement. But thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.